I've already finished my seam. I've got fusing along the edge here. Before I insert the zip, I want to sew the rest of the seam below it. And to do that, I need to mark where the zipper will end. I'll position the zip so the plastic bit is right on the fold line of the waistband and pin it in place. I'm just working out the end of my zip, so I'm not pinning it to sew it, so don't worry about pinning it exactly in place. And I'm just going to mark the position of the waistband seam on either side of the zipper tape and make sure these points are the same. This will help me sew the zipper straight so it doesn't go in an angle, and make sure the seams match up when you sew the zip. Now I need to mark the end of my zip. The zip should finish about 3 centimeters, so 1 1/4 inches above the bottom stopper here. But it could be 5 centimeters, so 2 inches if you want to shorten your zip a bit. I'm using a 20 centimeter zip, which means it will be about 17 centimeters long when it's sewn. Double check that you've marked the same point on both sides of the fabric and the zipper tape. Now that I've got my end point, I'll pin the seams together below. I'm just double checking my waist seam is lining up. And I'm going to check that my print matches up by putting vertical pins at the key points too. Once I've finished pinning my print placement, I'll then pin the rest of the seam. Then I'll just sew along it. Once I've sewn the seam, I'll close the hem, which I had to open to overlock my edge. Then I'll press the seam open and press the seam allowance above where the zip will be inserted. This will make it easier to insert my zip accurately. Now let's pin our zip to sew it. The plastic bit should be at the top here, so where the folded edge is of the waistband. Now the edge may look like it's here, but you can actually open it up a bit, so really roll it out, push the teeth out, otherwise you'll see part of the zip. Then pin the zip so the crease here is on the seam allowance edge that you've pressed open. Make sure the waistband seam mark you've made is aligned with the seam too. If you've got any stripes or prints, you can mark other points along the zip tag too, so they match perfectly. I'm going to try and mark this one here, although because it's a circle, I don't think I'll be able to do it, but I'll give it a go. Then I'll mark matching points on the other side of my zipper tape, and then pin the other side to my skirt. If you're new to sewing and not feeling very confident about sewing with invisible zip, get an invisible zipper foot, but you can also get a second zip and just practice on some spare fabric. Just give it a go. It's a lot less scary than it looks. You could also do what is called a basting stitch along the zipper tape here first. A basting stitch is just a temporary stitch used to hold layers of fabric together when you're sewing to prevent it from moving around. The stitch length is usually longer, so it's easy to remove, but you can keep the basting stitch on the zipper tape. It'll actually help secure the tape more to the fabric. I've already switched my machine's foot, so now I've got a regular zipper foot on. This will allow you to get close to the zipper. And I'm going to do a basting stitch somewhere along the tape on both sides. Once I'm done, I'll check my waistband seam matches and the zip is looking good. Now I'm going to do the proper stitch right next to the zipper, and I'm going to switch to my invisible zipper foot. You can use a regular zipper foot, but rather than putting the foot on top of the zipper teeth, you'll put it right next to it. If you're using a normal zipper foot, roll the zipper teeth out as you go so you can get right in the valley there. And make sure you backstitch all your seams at the beginning and the end, so just reverse back a couple of stitches and then go forward again so it doesn't unravel. And the zipper shouldn't be attached below the finish mark here. Then do the other side. Once you're done, carefully pull the slider and the pull tab above the zip finishing line. And moment of truth, yes, the seams match up. Now I'll just press my fabric away from the zip. This will give it a really nice finish and stop it from getting caught in the zip. I'm just pulling the fabric slightly as I go. Now the zip is in, we can finish the waistband. This is just a little sewing hack. I'm going to trim my waistband at the edge here by 0.4 centimeters, so 1/8 of an inch at the base to 0 at the fold line. This will help pull the fabric away from the zip on the inside of my waistband. And I'll do that on both sides. The seam allowance is still 1 centimeter or 1/2 inch though. Now with the right side of the skirt fabric facing me, I'll pull the zip extension down at an angle so it's sandwiched between the zipper tape and the waistband seam allowance. Then I'll fold the other side of the waistband on top so the right sides are inside and you can see the fusing on the waistband on top. Then I'll pull the waistband fabric to the edge. Make sure the seam allowance along the edge of the waistband, which you've already ironed up, is folded up too. Then, using a zipper foot, you can then stitch along the width of the waistband. It's best to do a basting stitch along the tape first, then do a second row of stitching next to zipper stitching, so it's just inside the seam allowance. So you should have 2 rows of stitching, one basting one, and then one very close to where the zipper has been sewn to the waistband. And once you're done, you can trim the seam allowance at the corner here to reduce the bulk and help you get a really sharp corner. Repeat these same steps on the other side of the waistband, then flip the waistband right side out and press the seam. If it feels bulky, you can trim the seam allowance some more. See how the fabric is pulling away a bit on the back? This is because we did that little sewing hack where we trim the edge. This is what you want. You want the fabric on the back here to be a little bit away from the zipper so it won't get stuck. Most people start pattern making because they want to make their own designs. Well, I did anyway. And I kind of feel that if you don't actually know how to make your own clothes afterwards, what's the point in pattern making? And vice versa. Sewing your own clothes does take a while, especially if you're new to sewing, and it's so much more rewarding if it's your own ideas and if they fit you really well. So I created a range of DIY pattern making kits designed for absolute beginners. Each kit has a block to use as the base for your pattern, and a step-by-step guide to show you how to turn the block into any design based on it. Just select the kit closest to your design to get started. And you can find them on my website, clickedpatternkits.com. Oh, and make sure you subscribe to my website, and I'll send you an email with my 10-step pattern checklist I use before sending my patterns to production, and I'll send you a 10% discount code for your first order. And if you want to see how I made the rest of this skirt, click on the video that has popped up. I've got lots more pattern making and sewing videos coming up, so subscribe to my channel too.